success isn't linear, and the people that have multiple championships probably also have multiple failures.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for joining me and welcome to the show. It is a true blessing to be able to connect with the top minds in strength each and every week and share stories, insights, and experiences on becoming stronger in every area of our lives. And now I want to do more for you. I want to invite you to join the exclusive private Facebook group of The Strength Connection. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength in their lives, and it's the perfect space to explore ideas and share your journey. You'll also get exclusive access to the Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. Just go to the Facebook groups, type in the Strength Connection, and you'll be accepted immediately. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the inside. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Derek, so good to meet you, or not meet you, I've seen you. It's so good. I'm going to start this again. So good to see you, Derek. So it's awesome. It's been about a year or so.
It has. Good to see you again, Michael.
Absolutely. So no, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's a couple weekends ago, some big stuff in the StrongFirst community for you. Congratulations, senior to master instructor. That must have been an incredible weekend, man.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I kind of felt it coming. It's been an interesting journey. I've been with Pavel since 2008. Mm-hmm. And did a lot of work, probably 2008 to 2015, taught thousands and thousands of people, the art of becoming stronger with kettlebells. Mm-hmm. And, there was a transition with Pavel kind of during that time, and, some things got lost in the mix. And so maybe the progression from, being a kettlebell instructor to a master was, mm-hmm. Changed in there. But it was always a goal of mine. I was like, I think I can become a master in about 10 years. It's almost like a jujitsu artist, saying, hey, I want to be a black belt in jujitsu. Yep. I was like, you're looking at this career saying, I think in 10 years I can get there. And recently over the last, year or so, I've been talking with Pavel more regularly. Mm-hmm. We started having phone conversations and a lot of emails back and forth about training and taking over the all-terrain conditioning course through StrongFirst. And so I was like, I think something's happening here. And sure enough, I was on a conference with Pavel and Brett Jones, and they announced it to me before the weekend, mm-hmm. That it was going to happen. So I was like, yes. It's like, it's like winning a championship, right? It's like all right.
Well, it's amazing. I was going to ask you, was that something that you thought of like wanting to pursue down the road, or did it just kind of eventually, come? And as you're saying, it's like, this could be a 10-year venture. It's like becoming a black belt in martial arts. It's right. And in such times too, when we think like goals are such quick things, like 12-week or 1 year type things, this is like a 10-year down the line plan of getting to this level. So yeah, that call must have been just like, probably maybe this is coming, but still it's got to be that initial shock of like, holy shit, this is freaking awesome.
Oh yeah. And then on top of that, just besides excitement, I mean, tears of like gratitude, and emotion, like how much energy and effort that you put into it, and responsibility that comes with it too. Now as master instructor, a lot of eyes are on me, people looking, to the new master, and, mm-hmm. and what am I giving back to the world? Like, what am I putting out there? How am I helping people move forward and make it better? And, obviously one day I'll be gone, and who are they going to be the new masters then? Exactly. I think one of the cool things about StrongFirst is that Pavel has put together an organization that he wants to surpass his lifetime, right?
Yes.
It is a school of strength, and he's set up the foundation of this school to become better. And also, who are the future instructors of this school? And so, mm-hmm. As a master now, I feel like I carry that it's not a burden, but I carry that load on my shoulders to, hey, we gotta do this right, mm-hmm. and we gotta pass it forward to the next generation of masters.
Yeah. I love that just mentality of it, because, we think of these things of, oh, I'd love to get to this level. But when you say that, it's almost like, oh yeah, that'd be great for me. I can put the badge on my chest and stuff. But as you're saying, it's like, well, how can I give more value, to this community being at this next level? And it's funny, I just had a conversation with Analisa Naldi yesterday about this, who went to senior instructor from Team Leader. Mm-hmm. And we talked about the book Legacy by James Kerr, which is that book about leaving, planting those trees that you might never see, but it's just getting to the next level. And from the work that you've done, I knew you were huge with altering conditioning, which really came from the strong endurance based background, which I'm getting it. So I'm excited. I want to talk to you a little bit about that as we go along.
I was just going to mention quickly, you're right. It's just with a lot of people want the title, right? But then don't realize, the responsibility that comes with it. Right. And so I think the people that do end up earning the title are the ones that start to figure out the responsibility. And then StrongFirst leadership is like this person, because they understand it, So,
Well, it's funny because you hear that so much, especially in the culture that we have of like Instagram and stuff. People say, oh, how do I get more followers? When it's like, the real question is like, well, why would somebody follow you? What value are you giving back, to them? It's like, it's a simple thing to think of, but it's kind of on the same, mindset here. Yeah, it'd be great to be in a leadership role of this, but what are you giving back to it? Like, why do you deserve that role? And it might take 10 years in order to build it up. Cause I know Pavel and Brett, they don't just hand these out, to anybody. It's like, you got to put your time in and give some value back.
Right. Yeah. And leadership comes with its responsibilities and also, like we were talking about a little bit earlier before the podcast, there are mistakes that you can make as a leader and accepting those responsibilities. The more things that you're in charge of, you're human and you make mistakes too, but then, okay, how do we learn from those mistakes, make it better? And that's how we move forward as humans. We make errors and then we fix them and make it better for the next person. Right. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think as a leader, a lot of times, especially when you get to a level of, I can go along your strength resume for days and days. I'm sure you're sick of hearing how strong you are with everything. But as coaches, we make mistakes at the same time, and that's still where we're learning. You're never above getting past those mistakes. And I know you've had some stuff recently with the coaching work that you do. I know you coach a young track team and stuff. So I don't know if that's a story that you want to get into.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, it's a podcast. People love stories, right?
Exactly.
People love stories, success stories, failure stories, doesn't matter. Just a story you want to hear. Cause just realizing like, oh, I've made some big mistakes and maybe, you don't have to be perfect to be a master instructor. So, I coach a high school track program. I took it over 4 years ago. Historically, it was the worst sport in our school's history. And my daughter was coming up through the program and I was just like, when you see something that's not good and your kids are about to go through it, you're like, okay, that's going to set the stage for, her understanding of how things work in the future. Right. And I don't want her replicating something bad in her life in other areas of her life. Like I attribute a lot of like maybe business success or career success to my athletic success, right? Once you understand, the structure and the discipline that it takes to win or be good at something, then you can start to duplicate that, and if you've never had a chance to learn that process, then, you're just kind of duplicating failure or lack of success. Right. So I'm like, I need to take over this program. I've been a part of multiple national championship track and field teams. And so I'm going to take over this high school program. We're going to make it better. So the last 4 years, the last conference title our boys won was 1973. So it was almost a half a century ago. And so for the last 4 years, I put that out there like, hey, we're going to put a number on that board, that banner in the gym. We're going to put a number up there. Right. And I knew we wouldn't get the first year, but making the best of what we had, knowing that, the process is going to take time too, as a coach, right? So kids graduate, new kids come in, once again, and I love them, but the juniors and seniors at that time were understanding the previous process, right? Yes. Which wasn't that great. The previous system wasn't that fantastic. And so we kind of had to graduate them out, right?
Sure.
Like slowly do our best with them to kind of change what we can. And then, like really look to the freshmen and the sophomores to start to really tweak some things. And then as they get older, right. And then every year we're like adding a new layer.
Gotcha.
Right? And building the program. And so this was the first year that the class that I had, I've had them freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. They're seniors this year. I've had them as freshmen. And it was the first year we had a legit shot at the title.
That's awesome.
We've won a bunch of invites this year, and we won our conference relay championships. We won the JV conference championships, And just last night was our conference championships. And their coach, myself, entered the athletes incorrectly into the meet. And nothing was said to me until like the heat sheets for the event came out. And then it was brought to my attention that I did it wrong. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let me just fix it. And they're like, no, you can't just fix it now because you've seen the heat sheets. And I'm like, well, come on. I can see what all the other athletes perform all year. There's like an online, I can just go online, and click on any school in the conference and see what they're running, right? It's not like a big deal, but they're like, no, it feels like you'll have an unfair advantage. So if you win this year, there'll be kind of like an asterisk by you because, you saw the heat sheets and then you got to change your entries. And I was like, okay. So I said, so what do you want me to do? And so we kind of had to play with a handicap. Typically you can enter up to 3 people per event. They said any event that you have 3 athletes in, you got to cut it to 2. So all the other schools got to play with up to 3 people per event. We had to play with 2 people per event. We ended up losing by 1.5 points. And I calculated my error was a 10-point error. So we would have won it. We actually would have won the conference championship by 8.5 points. Yeah, so it's one of those things that it was 100% my fault. I felt horrible about it. I've had like a sick to my stomach, right? Kind of feeling, I've been nauseous for like the last 24 hours. Yeah. And hard to look my seniors in the face and tell them what I did. But, I think part of being a man and being a coach, I think is more than just coaching kids in sports or coaching any athlete is being a role model adult. And for me, just, I'm a man and I feel like a masculine responsibility to present myself well, and just to own up to my mistakes. And so, came out and told them it was 100% my fault. I accept full responsibility and I apologize to all the parents and athletes and fans. Kind of just explained what happened and said, I don't know, especially my seniors, right? They don't get a second shot. And so I said, I don't think I can ever make it up to you, but I'll certainly do my best to do that between, now and the end of the season. So, I don't know if this podcast will come out, but I've got some good ideas come out before the end of the season. So maybe I shouldn't share, but I've got some good ideas on how I'm going to make this.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
We're going to make it good. We're going to make it good. And when you do something wrong, maybe you can't fix it, but there's certainly a lot of things that you can do to put a smile on their face and remember. And I told the kids too, you know what? I have a ton of trophies and they're just collecting dust. I have 4 national championship rings in my office right now, just collecting dust. Right. What I remember is my friends, I remember the events, I remember being there, the successes and failures of it all, the trophy is one thing, so.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and those things, they're always fun, but as you said, it's like those collect dust over time, you sit there and you can reminisce about that event, but the journey up to it and rebuilding it from there is going to stay with people from that. I always knew that from sports in school. I was one of those weird kids that loved practice. Like the games were fun, but I really knew like, practice is the time when you can really focus and build things. And I attribute that to why I enjoy coaching, so much. So
you understand the process.
Absolutely. And when you see the process working and you're seeing those steps to get better, it's like, obviously you love to see it in the game or in the meet, that all that hard work, pays out. But with a technical error like that, that's absolutely tough. However, it seems like
there was some wording used and a new system to the entries that made it seem like the wording matched up. And I was like, oh, that's how it is. And I just misunderstood it really. So, well, there was one of my favorite, it just came to my head, but if anybody ever saw the movie Soul Surfer at all, of Bethany Hamilton, the girl that got her arm, bit off with the tiger, and she got back into the event. I remember, spoiler alert, well, it's been out for like 20 years, but she, at the last meet, she was behind in points and it was like her first one up, and she rode this wave that was just absolutely perfect. And she got like a 10 out of 10 score in it, but she did it like right after the buzzer. So the wave didn't count. And so her dad's going crazy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, she got it before the buzzer and all this stuff. And she's just like, he's like, it didn't count. And she went up, she's like, no, Dad. She's like, it counted.
And it was like that moment of like, she built herself all the way back up to it, even though it didn't count on the sheet. She knew that it gave the best effort on it. So, and I think those are the things that build over time. It's still, I know it fucking sucks.
For sure.
That absolutely blows.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I told my kids, hey, you know who the real champion is. You know, there's no chance you guys would have lost. There's like zero chance you would have lost without your coach's mistake. And I think the other thing is to get this out there and to the audience or whoever's listening, is that, you know, when you do see success, I know you hear the stories of how Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team and all that stuff. But I mean, it is a real deal. It is an everyday thing. Like, success isn't linear, and the people that have multiple championships probably also have multiple failures. Right. And maybe the people that have the most championships have the most failures because they're out there trying the most. So so looking forward to our regional championships next week, Monday. And let me tell you, we're going to enter that correctly, and we're going to dominate that puppy. So
no doubt. Well, this must have been a really interesting experience taking over this team, because you've been a coach for so long. You worked with top level performers. You have your gym. You've been an instructor with StrongFirst teaching other coaches, but working with youth athletes. That's something. How's this experience really kind of helped you in your coaching mindset?
Wow, Michael, you hit a button there. You definitely hit a button there. It's challenging me probably more than I'm challenging the athletes. Because and we can talk about this later. I'm training a woman right now. Girls are who I train at Campbellsport High School. No, I'm training a woman right now for 4 mountaineering world records. Right. So elite athletes, you know, you go to StrongFirst events, and I'm an instructor to certify trainers that, you know, have great body movement. I come from a national championship program. We won the national title indoor and outdoor track our freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. We never lost. We four-peated, right? So you come from this, like, I work with elite all the time. And then you go to this high school where, you know, it's the worst sport in school history. You know, it's like, it could be a movie.
This is a Disney movie right here.
It is a Disney movie. Yeah. Where it's like no one has shoes kind of thing. Like, they don't know what track spikes are. They're wearing Jordans, you know, you're like, those are not track spikes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And, you know, it's just a nightmare. And so, and some of the kids just are out because their boyfriend is out or their girlfriend is out. They don't really actually want to be there. Right. And so you're like, okay, this is a legit volunteer army. I can't cut kids because I don't have anybody to cut. You know, if I cut kids, I don't have anybody on the team. Right. I got to build it. As much as I would love to cut this kid, you know, I've got to learn how to coach them and make them better. And so, it's been a real challenge for me to, kind of shift gears a little bit, go from this, like, this is how you elite performance, and switch it to like, hey, we got to have a little fun. We got to meet them where they're at. We got to learn their personalities and learn what makes them tick in life and try to coach them in that. And then, oh, by the way, you know, I love track and field now too. Right. So, it's been a cool process for sure.
What was the first things that you saw from that? It's like, because I know the technical side of how to get kids faster and stronger and all. I mean, you've got that down, and obviously that's something I'm sure you implemented. But was it more of because it was one of the worst programs, like you said? Was it more just the lackadaisical mindset of it? Was that something that you had to work with, of kind of getting the kids on board for a mission? Like, what was that first kind of? I know you said like the first year was kind of rebuilding that foundation of it. What were those things that you really wanted to focus?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, building a championship culture, that's a big part of it. Right. And so just from, you know, how do you conduct yourself at a track meet to, you know, and then for me as a coach, little things like you have to understand, like, boys have to win to have fun and girls have to have fun to win. This is right. Okay. You got to follow me here. So the boys, I've got to figure out how to help them work hard enough, how to understand how to work hard enough to start winning, and then they can start having fun. Girls, on the other hand, we have to take selfies, we have to do team parties, right? And like, we're at the track meet, we got to make up some kind of dance, you know, thing, and get with the dance program, and then they're like, oh, track is awesome, and then they're like, we got to get after it, right? And so what's interesting about this is that even though boys have to win to have fun, when you get to the track meet, they're the ones that you need to coach the least. I found when you get boys to a meet, you can't be like on them, right? They know what to do and they know what they have to do, and they want to go do it. And they're almost too much in their heads. Like you got to almost let them relax a little bit to perform. And girls, on the other hand, when you actually get to the meet, so I was talking about training before, fun, you know, when you actually get to the meet, they're the ones that if you really kind of get on their butts and kind of like, hey, this is what you got to do. Let's go, pump them up. Then they fly around the track. It's the craziest thing. So that was a kind of a big aha moment as a coach, and that's helped quite a bit. But yeah, it's in terms of performance, physical performance is easy, right? Like our first, the year before I took over, they sent 3 kids on from the first round of the championships to the second round. My first year taking over, we sent 21 kids. So from 3 to 21. I'm like, that's a nice improvement. And then the third round of the championships, now last season we sent, for our state championships, we sent 5 athletes to state. I mean, previously we were sending, 3 kids to the second round, and now we're sending 5 kids to the third round. And now this year we got 16 kids, in the top positions to go to the state championships, and with some alternates on relays, it'll be like 22 kids to the state championships. So kind of crazy in performance. It's just implementing things that I've learned in strength and conditioning, StrongFirst, stuff like that. Right. But more of the mindset of coaching, and my wife has a lot to do with this, by the way. So, I realized early on that I'm really bad. Like I am so robotical, this is the way things are done. This is what you have to do to be a champion, that I needed a softer side of that. And I knew that. And we coached both the boys and the girls, and all of my coaches were men. And I'm like, okay, something we need a team
some different
mom
energy in here. Yeah,
for sure. We need a team mom. So recruited my wife to coach. I'm like, hey, just come in. We actually don't have a coaching spot for us, but she's we don't have a paid coaching position for her. But she's, not without downplaying myself or my other coaches, like she possibly is the most important role on the team. She's the one on Snapchat with these kids, right? Like talking to them,
speaking their language.
Oh my goodness. Talking to kids. Like I got this kid, first meet of the year. He comes up to me before the meet. He's like, I'm going to quit. And I'm like, you're going to quit? He's like, I'm just not having any fun. And I'm like, you haven't even gotten to the first meet of the year yet. Boys have to win to have fun, you know? I got to get them to the first meet. So my wife spent like an entire day talking to him and his girlfriend on Snapchat, like getting them to stay out for track. And now he's part of a 4x100 meter relay team that might make it to state, and he's loving it. Right. Wow. So it's kind of funny. So yeah, she's super pivotal that way. And actually a really good recruiter. That's the other thing is getting the numbers. The program in the history, there 15 kids would be on the team, both boys and girls combined. And this year we hit 60, right at the beginning of the season, we had 60 kids, both boys and girls combined on the track team. So it's experienced some serious growth. Part of that from success, but a lot of that from my wife just being down in the weight room and chatting with kids, and finding out about their lives,
That's
kids
so
that
crazy.
didn't even know. Yeah. One kid had a broken arm, and he was a baseball player, and she's like, hey, is that arm going to heal in time for baseball? And he's like, no, it's not going to heal in time for baseball. He was all depressed.
Oh yeah.
Like, why don't you come out for track? At least they'll keep you in shape and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, now he's out for track, and he was a 3-event, all conference last night. So,
wow.
Yeah. So he's not going back out for baseball next year.
Love it.
Oh,
that's
sorry
so
to the
great.
baseball coach. He's winning. Yeah. He's winning. We got over here. So.
Yeah. It's so interesting when, as a coach, like just knowing the dynamic of your team, of what's going to motivate them. Like I remember early on, I worked with some young kids in baseball who a couple are now in minor leagues building themselves up. And they work so hard when I worked with them individually. But then all of a sudden we started doing some small group and some team effort, and that competitiveness between like each athlete of them just brought them to another level. So it's almost like they were trying to win the workout. And it's like you almost kind of, as a coach, kind of play with that a little bit more. It's like you don't need to push them more, but just like kind of fire that competitive edge a little bit more. Where as girls on a team, and I saw my sister, who was a collegiate softball and everything, say they were super competitive when they got on the field, but like during their times of training, it was all more about the camaraderie, about that team bonding type build. So it's so interesting what you can learn from young kids of coming up in that.
Yeah. And if you're not good at something, find somebody who is and get them on your team. Like I'm a pretty bad connector sometimes and too militant structure. And I knew my wife wasn't. So she loves the supportive role too. So it works out perfect.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, it's cool that you have that avenue to work with. Like, cause I think working with young kids just teaches you so much in the coaching world, from it. And I'm sure it's translated a lot into all the work that you've done with Alteration and now working with this girl who's going on the world record. And,
yeah. In terms of performance, strong endurance has helped me with a lot and just life experience and being at a high level. Mm-hmm. But I have probably grown more as a coach, coaching kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. than coaching adults. Cause the adults are easy. So like Mia, we can get on her topic for a second, her world records. So easy. If I'm like, Mia, you need to do 3 hours of step ups today. She's like, okay.
Right.
Like some people are like, well, so what else do I do besides step ups? I'm like, well, you can alternate legs if you want.
Right. There's your variety.
There's your variety, right?
Yeah. Well, because she's got such a single-minded goal and focus right now that like, okay, this is all we're working. So probably whatever you say, to her, like, all right, yep, that's gospel there. And
I just have to do whatever it takes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be fun. It doesn't have to be this or that. It just has to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
how'd this relationship start with Mia? With this.
So this can start with the all terrain conditioning thing. So I've taken strong endurance 3 times. If you guys know Pavel, dude, I swear he lives in like a lab, and he's just like in his basement with his evilness right down there, like, and like jabbing muscle biopsies in people and blood lactate testing and all this stuff forever. And then he thinks something works and then he'll send it my way and like, Derek, try this out for me, with you and your students. And then I try it and it gets back to him and I'm like, that's awesome, or that's awful, or whatever it might be. And so the first time I took strong endurance, and my degree is in exercise science, I feel like I'm a fairly smart person. It was just like most of it over my head. And so took strong endurance again. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting this. And then took strong endurance a third time. And I'm like, okay. And the third time I took it is when I really started to see patterns. I was like, oh, so this program is specific for, repeat power, right? Mm-hmm. But that also transitioned into this protocol really well, which is a little bit more geared towards endurance, which transitions into this protocol, which is a little bit more geared towards endurance. And so just as a quick example, if you ever open up the book, Quick and the Dead by Pavel, he's got a couple programs in there, 033, 044, right? 033 is 5 swings every 30 seconds for 4 rounds. Then you take a 1-minute break and then you do 5 push-ups every 30 seconds for 4 rounds and 1-minute break. And there's a specific way to do it. You got to get the book and read it. So that is incredibly similar to 044, where it's 5 snatches every 30 seconds for 4 rounds on your right hand. 1-minute break, 5 snatches every 30 seconds for 4 rounds on your left hand, 1-minute break. But it's slightly more intense snatching, right? So like if you go from swings to push-ups, that's one thing, but going from snatches on one hand to snatches on another hand, like there's not a big difference there. So it, so the intensity changes a little bit, right? And so that is a progression, one progression to the other. And there's actually a regression of 033 called 015, plan 015. And so I'll start people on 015. We'll start really, really heaviest weight we can. So like for a guy, maybe they're swinging a beast, and for a lady, maybe they're swinging a 24 to 32 kilogram kettlebell, right? And then we transition to 033. Okay, it's different. Maybe we can stay with that beast 24, 32, or maybe we step down just a little bit. Right. And then by the time we get to 044, okay, well, you're not going to be snatching a beast. Most people aren't going to be snatching a beast, or most ladies aren't going to snatch a 32 kilogram kettlebell for reps. So we got to step down a bell again. And then we transition into 060, right? And we step down again. And then we keep doing these transitions. And there's this whole like waving where you build it up and then you decrease the volume, but change the intensity, and you build it up again. And then you decrease the volume, but you change the intensity and you build it up again. And it really builds towards this peak endurance. And I think I saw that pattern because of track and field, like understanding the process of like, okay, we start running in September and we're guys that can throw down a 20-second 200, you know, and we're running like 37, 38-second 200s. Right. And you're like, how is this ever going to make you fast? But you have to understand how the body works, right? And understand how it builds up and builds up. And so I saw that in strong endurance and just put it together, put it to the test with myself and a few like friends that love to just recreationally climb mountains, and saw awesome success, just like eating up mountains, just crushing it. And took it to a group of guys that we live in Wisconsin, right? And if you know anything about, you know, United States geography, there are no mountains here in Wisconsin. You know, like we live at about 700 feet elevation here. So to be able to take this program, go straight to Grand Teton and summit Grand Teton and get off faster than any group I've ever been up on that mountain with is impressive, right? So I'm like, this program works. And so talk to Pavel a little bit more about all-terrain conditioning. I'm like, hey, can I, you know, and he's like, yeah, Derek, you know, feel free to rewrite the manual. I'm like, okay, perfect. So, you know, got into it, made the manual about twice as thick as it was.
Okay. Yeah.
And you know, started to get this stuff in there and teaching the course. And that's how I met Mia. And so Mia, she's originally from Serbia. And, you know, she left Serbia, you know, during the civil wars, and she now lives in Australia, and her dad was a mountain sport athlete, loved to climb. And so she kind of got that love of the mountains from him, and at a young age. And ironically, she just thrives in high altitude. You know, she's one of those, it's kind of like the dude in 14 Peaks, right?
Crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you get him in a human performance lab, and it's just like, he's just he's not a normal human, right?
Yes.
And so she's that way too. She thrives at high altitude. It really doesn't slow her down that much. Where, you know, if we put her at sea level, she's not going to run. She's not going to go much faster. But if we put her at 14,000 feet, you know, she can go the same speed.
Wow. So, that's crazy. That's so crazy. Yeah.
I know, it's kind of weird, but you know, and so she's going for some world records. She's going to Aconcagua. Essentially, she's going to run. So Aconcagua, let's put this in perspective. It's the second tallest of the 7 summits. So when we're looking at the tallest peak on all 7 continents, those are the 7 summits. Everest is the tallest. Aconcagua is in South America. It's the second tallest of the 7. It's almost 23,000 feet, right? So just not quite 7,000 meters in height. So most expeditions go into Aconcagua. They come in the gate. And they go from the gate, they go up to the top, and they come back down to that same gate, and that takes them 2 weeks, right? She is going to run around the entire mountain and over the top of it in like less than 38 hours. Yeah. So insane, right?
Wow. Okay.
Totally insane. Yep. So I know. So just next level athlete. So working with her is an incredible change. Normally, you know, being in StrongFirst, I'm working with people that love strength, you know, and we're trying to build strong endurance to get out there and do kind of adventure sports that are a little bit more enduring. Okay, you might have a 500-pound deadlift, but you know, can you ski at 13,000 feet?
It's not going to carry over on that.
Yeah. Can you hike in the mountain for 14 hours straight? You know, like, and so I'm used to working with strength athletes and building endurance. And that's how my all-terrain conditioning program works. And, but for her, she's this endurance athlete that, you know, doesn't have a lot of strength background, you know? And so giving her a program like the 033 or 044, she's not necessarily strong enough or powerful enough to do it correctly. Just, you know what I mean? I can't put a 20 kilogram kettlebell in her hand and say, snatch this yet. Okay. But she's got an amazing aerobic capacity, right? So I'm actually in my program, even though the intensity kind of changes and then the volume drops and intensity changes, I'm starting her from the other end of this program.
Okay.
Like, right.
Yeah. Just because her aerobic capacity is just so next level.
Yeah. And honestly, so as we get closer to the trip, her run volume is going to start to increase too, right?
Okay.
And so if I would have traditionally done my all-terrain conditioning with her, where the volume is increasing and the intensity is starting increasing, and her run volume is increasing, like she's just going to fall apart, right? So I don't need to kill this lady. I want her to succeed and perform. And ultimately an endurance athlete that's getting stronger is going to see huge gains. And so I met her where she's at and said, okay, we're going to start with kind of these high intense endurance protocols, and your run volume is really low. And we're going to, as that becomes easy, hey, can you grab a little bit heavier a bell and reduce the intensity a little bit, but then increase your run volume? And then do that for a long time until your body adapts. And then can we increase or decrease the intensity a little bit, but grab a heavier bell again? So she's getting stronger as we're moving through the program, and her run volume. So it's this inverse relationship. Gotcha. So by the end of this program, she should feel the strongest she's ever felt. Right. And her run volume should be where it's at for the endurance capacity. So we're hoping those records fall pretty quickly.
Wow. This is a fascinating thing, to do. And, props to her for attempting this. This is absolutely phenomenal. I know she'll crush it from there. Do you think for her, because this is a ways out here, this is another 7-8 months or so that you're kind of training for this, of building up right now? Yeah.
And looking at it, there's a full moon coming up January 6th. And so that's going to give her a lot of light. To kind of not stop and keep going. So that's kind of the date we're looking for. So we got to get there and kind of acclimate first. So we're going to do a summit together as an acclimation process. And then come back down, let her body rest from that, and then get after it then. Right. So
is this something with the program that it's do you see the whole 7 months out leading up to this right now? Or is it right now working on a lot of see how she works with particular protocols and kind of making adjustments as you go? Or do you see the whole vision out of this is what we want to get to all the way to January?
Yep. Both. Yep. So my protocols don't change until your physiology changes. So so you might have seen an article, or if you jump on the StrongFirst website, Pavel talks about stop signs in your program. And they're very, very simple to look at. If the goal is nasal breathing, well, when you start mouth breathing, that's a stop sign.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
If the goal is to keep the lactic acid down, when you start to feel deep muscle burn, that's a stop sign. If your heart rate gets to a certain level, that's a stop sign. If you can't pass a talk test before your next interval, that's a stop sign. If your cadence drops or your power output drops at any point during the workout, that's a stop sign. So I have a training session for her, and she checks in with, hey, how'd this session go? And she tells me, and okay, now I kind of know where she's at. And when she gets to a level where she can make it for 60 minutes or 90 minutes or 3 hours without reaching a stop sign, your body's ready for the next protocol.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah. And then we step it down. So I'm confident she's going to make it through. Usually the protocols last about 4 to 8 weeks, each protocol. And I've got about 6 of them for her, 6 or 7 that I can progress her through. So she's doing a nice job of progressing through it. So
I love that concept of using stop signs as a way, because one, I think it works so well, but 2, it seems like no matter who you're working with, it's such an easy concept for them to understand as a client, and I think that's one thing with coaching is getting your client to actually understand why you're doing this and they feel a part of it. The first time I did that, I remember, was with breath ladders, with Brett. We did that a while, the 2-to-1 ratio of snatching. It's if you need to take an extra breath, then you're done for the day. Check it off. Don't let the ego come in and be oh no, it wasn't a real breath. It's no, get that in. I think that's such an important concept to work with.
Yeah. Well, and those, okay. So this is a difference between training general pop, or training my high school athletes and training an elite level, mountaineer, right? Her mind is so strong. She can push herself to the point of passing out. So in fact, she's tried this world record before attempt, and she fell asleep. So she was going so hard, she bent down to get some water and she passed out and fell asleep. Wow. And I was oh my gosh, if you would have just fell into the water, it would have woke you up. But she turned, and so, so it's, training an athlete like that, they can just go. Well,
Right.
eventually, they're just going to kill themselves. And actually there's a point of diminishing returns physiologically. When your body's not ready to do something, but you force it to do it anyway, it kind of has this like survival mode where it just is like, and it's going to try to prevent you from progressing to get you to stop doing what you're doing. Your body is a protective adaptation machine, and it doesn't want to die, and it doesn't want you to do stuff it doesn't like.
Right.
So it's essentially, it's that, how do you boil a frog? You can't throw him in boiling water. He jumps out, but if you slowly turn up the heat, he stays in there and cooks himself to death. Yeah. So it's the same with your body. Is if you turn this up in ways that you don't realize, you become freakishly strong or freakishly enduring. And so what I always tell my students is, you shouldn't really notice a difference. Like, you get to the end of the protocol and you're doing things that are far beyond what you did at the beginning of the protocol, but you feel the same.
Yes.
When you walk away from the workout, you're like, I seriously did like twice the volume I normally do. And I think I'm going to go
and feel awesome. Yeah.
I'm going to go play softball later. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you're truly building this capacity, and it's reeling those athletes in. I did that with the guys that I helped to coach up Grand Teton. Is I had to keep reeling them in. They're like, I feel like I should do more. And I'm like, don't do more.
Yes.
Don't do more. Stop. Don't do more. Like, just do what trust me. Like, you have to slow down to speed up. Like, you will make some crazy gains. And it was about month 3 that they came back and they're like, I feel like a machine. Like, follow the process.
Yes.
Do not stop. Follow the process.
That's something about strong endurance. I mean, I did strong endurance a few years back in Chicago, and it was one of those just mind-blowing experiences of understanding this protocol. Cause it almost feels like I went back, we did it in our studio that we had, and people are almost kind of like waiting around. We're doing like, 2-1 ratios or 2-2 ratios. And they think like, well, I'm not working, like I'm resting. I feel really good afterwards. It's like, yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's almost that buy-in right off the bat. And then same thing, like 2-3 months down the line, they're like, wow, like I feel really good. I feel really strong. It's like, yeah, it kind of sneaks up on you.
Yeah. Nothing hurts. And you can do 2 to 3 times more than you used to be able to do.
Yeah.
But,
with someone
brush
like
yourself
Mia,
all the time.
Yeah. With someone like Mia, is it better for her for something like this to just get as strong as possible? Or is it just she needs to get to a standard level of strength and then really build the volume back up?
Yeah, correct. Yep. She's got to get to a good standard level of strength, because also we can't start packing on muscle either, So you got to be really, really on top of things in terms of like how much volume, how much weight, and is this how much muscle is this going to build? Because she's got to carry that up there. Every pound extra you're carrying at 23,000 feet, let me tell you, you're going to feel it, right? I know that as a rock climber, climbing at, normal levels, like every extra pound on your fingertips is incredibly difficult. Yeah. So, and what she's doing is painfully slow. Like, the world record from the highest base camp to the summit is 7 hours and 45 minutes. So she's the highest base camp to the summit, is just painfully slow. I think it's like 2.5 miles, to go, and it takes like 7 hours. So think about that. Think of the pace you're going, and now let's put an extra 5 pounds of muscle on your body and let's try that, So, so there's definitely going to be like, hey, we're strong enough. This is good. We haven't packed on any muscle. So this is neural strength. That's fantastic. Yeah. So
do you do any like altitude based training for this at all? Like, I don't know if those masks even work or anything like that of doing running. Do you like incorporate any of that with these high altitude type training programs?
No, I don't use a mask at all. She does hyperbaric chambers.
Oh, okay.
And she has a high altitude room that she trains in as well. So she has access to that kind of thing. But on top of that, if you've ever taken Second Wind Express by Pavel, that's on an online course that you can take. There are some hypoxic drills, basically breath holding drills, and a protocol that you can do there, and working with hypercapnia. The drills that are involved with that, and those help quite a bit as well. So that would be something to look into if the listener out there is into mountain sports or high altitude sports. hypercapnic drills or hypoxic drills are fantastic.
Gotcha. So with the all-terrain conditioning, like I see, because I love the explanation of it. It's like if you had to take like 20 kegs, like from the first floor up to the second floor, like how many people could actually do it? It's a different type of strength endurance. I thought that was a great analogy. But one thing I saw in the program, because I know it's based a lot on strong endurance, but you don't do snatches in all-terrain conditioning. Is that right? You do more swings and high pulls?
No, we've done snatches. I think,
okay.
Yeah. One of the reasons that we did swings and high pulls was there was it's a weekend course, right?
Gotcha.
So
okay.
people come into the weekend and they might be a StrongFirst certified instructor. They might be a student, or they might be somebody who's never touched a kettlebell in their life, And so to try to take this group of people and teach them snatching for the first time, when they've never even really swung a kettlebell, can be a little bit difficult. So yeah, I kind of just assess the group when I'm teaching the course and see where they're at. If it's a group of, almost all StrongFirst people or kettlebell students, which it seems to be like getting more and more and more all the time because the school is getting bigger and just, the kettlebell technique is becoming more prevalent. People kind of know how to snatch. And so we can go from the high pull right to the snatch.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
That 044 protocol is something just different that works. I just came from doing SFL and working a lot on barbell based work. So my conditioning really wasn't so great, but I knew I had to recertify and still do some snatch testing work. And I just did 044 and a little bit of like 5 on the minute, type stuff. And it just keeps your conditioning and your volume in there. There's something magical about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's strong endurance. You look at a guy like John Brookfield. If you don't know who John Brookfield is, go to YouTube and type in John Brookfield Tower of Terror. And he bottoms up snatches a 48 kilogram kettlebell, flips it, catches it, and he does that 20 in a row on one hand. It's impressive, right? So, but here's the end of the story is John Brookfield also did 301 snatches in 10 minutes with a 24 kilogram kettlebell. Okay. Well, is John Brookfield a specimen of endurance? No. If we brought him into the mountains, he might struggle a little bit,
right?
Because he's a big dude. He's a strong man, but if you say a 5-minute or a 10-minute test, I'm sorry, he did 301 in 10 minutes. If you say, hey, this 10-minute test, and you give him a 24K bell, he's like, this is light. Right. It'd be like you or I grabbing an 8 kilogram kettlebell and just like ripping it out. Yeah, it's exactly. So easy. Yeah. It's so sub-maximal that your endurance looks better, just because it's light. I mean, another analogy would be if I give you 500, if you can deadlift 500 pounds and I put 250 on a bar and say deadlift it as many times as you can, well, it's 50% of your max. Your endurance looks good because it's so maximal. But if your max deadlift is only 300 and I use that same 250 and say deadlift it as many times as you can, well, you're going to struggle to get 5 or 6, right? Well, is your endurance bad? No, you're just not strong.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's interesting. I got a chance to talk with John Brookfield on the podcast. I didn't realize how freaking strong this guy is because he's so unassuming looking in his work. Like honestly, and he's a great guy, but you would not think of walking down the street that this is one of the strongest guys ever. But that is interesting. We equate a lot of times endurance to just how many reps that you can get in something where in reality, you might just be using such a sub-maximal load that that's not really changing your endurance base at all.
Absolutely. I mean, if we can bring this back to track and field, endurance athletes that are world-class have to be very fast. It's one of those, let's say you run the 400 and if you can run a 20-second 200 and I say, hey, I need you to come through the 200 at 22 and then come back in 24, you can run a 46-second 400, right? So if you can run 20 flat and I ask you to run 22 for the first 200, you're like, it's 2 seconds under my PR, piece of cake. Right. But you take a kid that, is only 20, he's only can run a 22-second 200 and you say, okay, you got to come through at 22. He ain't coming back in 24 and running a 46. There's no way.
Right.
Because he just maxed out his first 200. He's pooped, So, I mean, you can take a fast person and build endurance if you do it the right way. And that's a totally different conversation. And people to look up would be, Mike Scannell. Mike Scannell trained Grant Fisher, who was in the last Olympics, and he was a third high schooler to break a 4-minute mile. Mike Scannell's on Twitter. He has a great page that you can just follow and learn a lot from, and learning about anti-glycolytic training that he does. He blood lactate tests his athletes, and so you take a fast athlete and then build endurance.
Right. Gotcha.
You could have a great miler or a great quarter miler or whatever,
Yeah. So when you were building the all-terrain conditioning and kind of revamping it, I know there's a lot of strong endurance protocols in there. What are the other things that you kind of found to add into it to make it more kind of specific for the obstacle courses and like the mountaineering?
Yeah, this is good. You don't have the book, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'm like, how did you come up with that question? So I found step-ups to be incredibly beneficial. And Kenneth Bolliard is from Germany. We connected through the StrongFirst world as well, and he loves mountain sports as well. And so definitely check him out on Instagram, and you can see his work there. But he agreed. He's like, step-ups. If we could do two things, step-ups and snatches. Like, really? All I want to do is step-ups and snatches. Like, transferring those two things into the mountains or rock climbing is incredibly beneficial, just because that's one thing you're doing constantly is stepping up, right? And we know that a lot of the benefit that we get from exercise, a lot of benefit we get is global, right? Like our whole body, but the majority of the benefit we get is localized, right? So, we're not going to get better at doing, walking up a hill by, doing push-ups, for example. Okay? Right. Like the mitochondria and the cellular development from push-ups is going to be in our triceps or shoulders or pectorals, right? How is that going to help you with hiking, right? Yeah. So we put up in step-ups, and we kind of took one of Pavel's protocols and just evolved it, one of the heart rate training protocols that he has in strong endurance. And we started using it for step-ups, and it works incredibly well. Wow. That's so interesting. Such a simple thing that's going on in so many gyms around the country is one of the best things that you can do. So easy. And then, if you understand Pavel's, change of 20% rule, you can change the box step height. Maybe you can roll the dice. Oh, today I'm stepping on a 12-inch box, and today I'm stepping on an 18-inch box. There's your variety. Roll a dice. If I roll a 1, 2, or 3, I'm stepping on 12-inch. If I roll a 4, 5, or 6, I'm stepping on 18 inches today. And then, your cadence. How fast are you stepping? Right. And then you can, what weight are you putting in your rucksack? Right. Delta 20 on your rucksack. Today I'm stepping light. Today I'm stepping medium. Next day I'm stepping heavy, and you can, obviously you want the majority of your training right in the middle. Right. So if, let's say the middle weight for my rucksack is 40 pounds, then, Delta 20, I'd have, 8 pounds lighter. So 32 would be my light day, and 48 would be my heavy day, something like that. Right. Gotcha. So, I want the majority in the light. So if I roll the dice, 3, 4, and 5 are going to be my medium days. If I roll a 6, it's heavy. And if I roll a 1 or 2, it's going to be light. Gotcha. Right. Okay. So, because I want the majority of my training, and you just let it come to fate. And some days you end up with a heavy weight and a high box and a fast step up cadence. And you're like, whoa, and there you go. This is going to be a super short. Yeah. And then, but the heart rate training is stable. The heart rate is the same. The heart rate tells you when to go and when to stop. Yep. And go again. And so you're like, whoa, this one's going to be a really short workout. I'm going to reach a stop sign super fast, and other days you roll and you're like, I'm going to be stepping for hours. Yeah. Oh, I got the low box, the lightweight, and the low cadence. Like, this is going to take forever. Right. Yeah. You think that's the nice day. It's like, yeah, no, you're going to be going half the day. I was doing that with Brett for a bit, because he was doing the iron cardio work with me, of his dice roll type work of work constraint and rep range and everything like that of getting into. And it's like some of those days you pray for the light rolls, but then one day it's like, wow, heavy. Okay, here we go. This is going to be a fun one today. I better get after it. Right. Yeah, exactly. So have you done any of the iron cardio strength aerobics work at all, of kind of, that seems like it might have some carryover into some of the all-terrain stuff. Yeah. I'm training in a group right now here in Wisconsin, and they're iron man competitors, and they like to bike ride, and they're doing a lot of endurance training already. And I'm like, I've done a lot of the all-terrain conditioning with them already. And so I thought, maybe some good strength works. Let's do some strength aerobics, and then looking at that, I don't know, I'm a progression guy. I kind of see something hard that people are doing, and I say, okay, how do we regress from that? Or I see something simple and like, what's a harder version of that, right? And then you just put 2 and 2 together and like, okay, we're starting here and we're going to go until that is so easy for our bodies that we step up a level and it doesn't feel any different. And so, so I'm doing that with strength aerobics with them.
I love that. Yeah. I love that aspect of it, of the RPE, of like, just keep doing it until it feels like super easy, then make that big jump instead of the gradual. So many people think like it's that gradual progression, where with strength, it's that much more kind of discrete. It's like, make those bigger jumps. That's going to give you the big changes in your body and really keep building your performance.
Correct. And when you make the big jump, realize that there's a major intensity change. And so the volume has to go down with that. Right.
Exactly.
And be okay with that. Don't grab a big weight and think you're going to do the same amount of volume. Right. Like that makes no sense at all. That'll just lead you to injuries and stagnation.
Exactly. So I know you're going to be going on this venture as well with me coming into January. You're going to be part of the team. Are you training anything like specific for that? Are you kind of following a similar program that you're doing for me, or are you doing something different?
So I'm going to go through the strong endurance and altering conditioning program the traditional way, starting with the most powerful strength-based protocols first and building towards the endurance ones. I've done it before. I know it takes me approximately 6 months. And coaching track right now, this is kind of the most stressful time in my life. Coaching track, it takes like an extra 30 hours a week on top of my normal like life and business. And so, I'm pretty scatterbrained most of the time. And so right now I'm just kind of like steady, right? I just get in the gym a couple days a week, go hiking or climbing a couple days a week, and that's about all I can fit in. But as soon as track is over in June, I'm going to start to hit it pretty hard. And going with Mia wasn't originally part of the game plan, but as we talked more and more, it's like, okay, I think I can be an asset to the team and make a difference. So we're going to go do this together.
Oh, what a cool experience to be a part of,
Well, she's setting the world records. I'm sorry.
Well, but being there as a coach too, I mean, that's just such a cool experience for you at the same time.
For sure. Just to be there with her and see her do it and coach her through that process and then see the outcome. Good or bad, obviously we're hoping for good, right?
That's awesome.
And if you follow me on social media, I'll post like the tracking so you can watch her as she's doing it. You can just follow the tracker online and stuff like that. So it'd be a really cool thing.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, Derek, dude, it's been awesome connecting with you again. I love it. Got so many cool things going on. There was some great topics that we went into here. And again, like, just congratulations on all the hard work and effort that you put in for the StrongFirst community, getting up to master. You don't do that besides just putting in a lot of value into a lot of different people and coaching a lot of people. And it's awesome. So really appreciate everything that you're doing.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Time seems to go so fast. I can't believe it's been an hour already, but it's good to see you. And we'll touch bases again.
Absolutely. Yeah. So places to follow you if people don't follow you already, where they can consume your content. Instagram,
Yeah. I got to get better at it, of course, and put more information out. But TNT Adventure Fit on Instagram, and then Derek Toshner on Facebook. And really, truly, the biggest followers are the ones that feel free to send me a message, on Instagram or Facebook. And then I talk privately with you and emails back and forth and stuff like that. I do provide actually a lot of free content to people that seek me out. Right. I kind of like that person that is willing to step forward and not just like consume the free content that I'm just throwing on whatever page. Like, if you have a specific question, ask for it, and you'll be surprised at I don't send you a bill in the mail to answer.
Exactly. Here's your invoice.
Yeah.
So awesome, man. Well, dude, great seeing you. I'm excited to see this journey that you're doing with Mia. This will be awesome. So,
okay. Yeah, cool. Thanks for following.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.